Well, as the festive season approaches, ensuring smooth and efficient border operations is crucial for travellers. Today, Transport Minister Barbara Creecy, accompanied by her deputy Mkhuleko Hlengwa, visited the Lebombo Port of Entry on the South Africa-Mozambique border. The visit aimed to assess the port's state of readiness to handle the anticipated holiday traffic surge. For more on this, let's now speak to the CEO of the Cross-Border Transport Agency, Lwazi Mboyi. Lwazi, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and good afternoon to you. So just, talk us through your readiness. Not too long ago, we saw how the violence emanating from Mozambique post-elections there flow into the country through the Lebombo Port. So what measures are in place during this festive season, firstly from a safety perspective and also from a traffic efficiency perspective?
Thank you very much, Unati. I hope you can hear me, but thank you very much. So we were in Lebombo today for the Minister's oversight visit to have a sense of what's going on in Lebombo. So from our side as the agency and the Department of Transport, we have deployed a lot of law enforcement officials in that space to ensure a better movement of traffic and a bit of safety in that space. We are also supported by the SAPS and the Lebombo Port Traffic Department. And the Mpumalanga Traffic Department. So it hasn't been easy because of the volatile situation in Mozambique, but we're doing our best. As you know, at the moment, as we speak, the border is still closed to freight traffic, but the passenger movements are allowed from time to time, as well as some of the small vehicles that go through. So it's not easy because of the volatile situation in Mozambique. It starts and then it's shut down again. But from our side, we are ready. The law enforcement officers from the Cross-Border Road Transport Agency are on the ground. The Mpumalanga Traffic Department is there, supported by the SAPS and other law enforcement entities like the RTMC, as well as the BMA police. So we are on the ground. We are trying to ensure that there's safety in that space. And there's been a drastic reduction, I think, in the number of incidents that are taking place at the border at this point in time. Unfortunately, most of the trucks are stuck there for up to 30 kilometers at a time. And that is one of the difficulties because there is just no movement at this point in time.
And I mean, that was going to be my next question. You are asking, of course, these trucking companies to delay their travel to Mozambique using the Lebombo border port, but yet there is this backlog. What other alternatives is there for the trucking companies then, or the freight companies to travel, to Mozambique? Are there other alternatives that are being provided for them? And then what happens to that backlog that you currently are facing now?
It's actually quite sad, Sissy, because there's quite a huge backlog, as you say, of about 30 kilometers, because there's nothing that is moving at the moment. The border is completely shut to freight movements until the situation in Mozambique improves. The South African Revenue Services and the BMA colleagues at the border that we work closely with are looking at other potential border exits that we can work through, and these are being explored. But at the moment, nothing is confirmed. And one of those borders goes through Swaziland, for instance. But at the moment, it's not yet confirmed, because remember that when people pay to exit the borders, they pay for a specific exit point, and it would mean that now you have to transfer those funds to a different country, which is Swaziland. So all those logistics needs to be sorted out through our DERCO, and perhaps at some point they will be sorted out. But at the moment, there's still a huge backlog.
And how is that going to hamper then your operations in as far as ordinary civilians that wanting to holiday or travel into either country? How do you manage those? Have you extended your operating hours? What are some of those contingencies there?
So the border is now 24 hours, and the situation in Mozambique slightly improved yesterday to a point where we're able to allow a lot of passenger movements to go through between 4 p.m. in the afternoon and I think early hours of this morning. So that did provide some relief for a lot of people that are going to Mozambique, particularly for passenger movements and some of the small vehicles that are carrying groceries and other stuff into Mozambique. But in terms of the huge freight companies, it has still been a problem. So the minister today did place emphasis on the fact that we are really backing the big companies to hold back on sending trucks to the border at the moment until the situation improves. But I'm hoping that sometimes it does open up from time to time. I'm really hoping that over the next few hours or a day or two, it will open up again. But for passenger movements, we have been lucky in the sense that these have been prioritized and they were allowed to go through last night. And I was at the border until very late, so they were allowed to proceed until, I think, midnight.
As the cross-border transport agency, just from a long-term perspective, we know, of course, these things might happen from time to time, especially if it is outside of South Africa's, authorities' side, and it lies more with our neighboring, states. How well then should you be working? You mentioned, of course, a number of stakeholders, including law enforcement authorities, custom officials, in enhancing travel, not only for, ordinary citizens, but also for businesses who are losing into the millions on a daily basis. How, from a long-term perspective, do you think these kinds of situations should be resolved?
Look, in the other borders, it hasn't been such a massive problem, I must be honest, because there's better coordination with our neighboring countries. So even if there are problems, they are easily resolved. And I think we have been able to allow for free movement of freight, goods, and people across the border. The Mozambique situation is unique now, I think, because of the post-election situation that we are faced with. And until that is resolved, we're still going to sit with this challenge. So generally, I don't think we have a massive problem. Yes, there are still long queues at our borders because of a number of circumstances. For instance, the department and ourselves just came back from Groblersdal Bridge as well. In Limpopo, similar situation where there's a huge volume of trucks that are going through that space and there are infrastructure challenges. So this needs coordination between ourselves, the BMA, SARS, and other colleagues that are working at the border, the PMCs at the borders, so that we can have effective mechanisms to ensure that people are going through the borders unhindered as much as possible. I must be honest that it's only sometimes during these festive periods where we have huge numbers and we have to deploy more people and more security personnel to ensure that there is less incidents and there's freer movement of goods. So generally, we do not have a lot of challenges per se, but I think this time around we are challenged, I think, because of that situation we're faced with.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. I think that's where we have to leave it for now. Lwazi Mboyi, the Cross-Border Transport Agency CEO, just, of course, talking about the border operations during the festive period.